What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Zoomer Perspective. I think we're on episode number 8.
I believe that is correct. Moving right along.
We are. And today, Jacob and I, we were talking a little bit before this.
We've been talking a lot before this.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle.
It depends on how you want to describe a little bit.
Yeah, we've had a topic block. We really struggled to just kind of find a topic that we liked enough to, podcast it out there.
For real. But I think we got a good one. And that's talking about
fulfilling our roles.
Yes, the role that you have either as a man or a woman. I think, and tell me what you think about this, Jacob, but I think that a lot of people kind of know their role. It's kind of like a knowledge, but it's not really acted on. What would you say?
You mean like inherently they are aware of their role?
Yeah, well, it's like, if you asked a guy, like, what's your role? Like, what should you do in the household or like in society and stuff like that? I feel like people could give you an answer, but then it's kind of like, it's not shown, it's not seen.
I think you say that we inherently know our roles. Mm-hmm. However, that's because we've been taught and raised around people that are that way. And I think I can think of a few people that were not raised around that and are confused and don't know their roles. And that's why we have the society we have nowadays where guys are girls and girls are guys and everyone's confused and just mixed up in everything.
Or even like not even that extreme, but it's just like you have guys acting like girls and girls kind of trying to act like guys.
Absolutely.
So maybe it's like a mix of both.
Yeah,
I'd probably say it's probably a mix of those two. So let me ask you then, Jacob, what would you say as a man your role is? So not only just like your role for being a husband, but just as a man in general, or to someone like me who's not married, what would you say our role in society is?
It honestly, it depends on the setting, I think, but in most cases, I think as a man, we are to be a kind of a protector and especially of younger people around us, of the ladies out there. We're to be gentlemen, especially to the ladies, kindly opening the door. It doesn't have to be for girls. You can just be a better gentleman than the guy in front of you, beat him to the door. Doesn't mean you're better.
For real.
But, crazy. You can still be a gentleman to other dudes. Just like the urinal code, this is gentleman code right there.
Good question. Is urinal code gentlemanly? Ooh, that's a real head scratcher there.
I don't think it is because, it's only awkward if you make it awkward.
Yeah, I mean, it's only awkward if you're caught looking.
Well, I think that would classify as making it awkward, yeah.
Oh, dude, that silence right there, that was peak. That was peak.
Yeah. Anyways,
but yeah, protector.
But I think a protector and just for instance, if you had ladies around you, or if you were the bigger or older man to other younger men or boys even, and a robber came up or a vicious dog or animal, as the bigger man and as the protector, I think you should be the one that steps up, not hide behind the smaller people or the ladies, but to step up,
don't be like
to be a protector and not be a coward, just to be
exactly what I was going to say.
That strong front, not to be a controlling freak or anything, and not to say that you're better than other people, but it is our role to step forwards and face the danger and to protect the ladies so that they can, be ladies.
Yeah. I don't think that's crazy. So earlier, like just a second ago when we were talking about that, you said like people have kind of lost that. You feel like they don't have that direction or that instinct of, oh, this is the role that I'm supposed to take. What makes you say that?
Just what I see on social media and online. There's too many guys that are not willing to stand up either for themselves or for their friends or people around them, and they let themselves get pushed around too much instead of
I think that's a good
being a man. But they scream and run from danger instead of sucking it up and taking the tough route and being a man.
Yeah,
I would that too much. Yeah,
I would actually agree with that. I think that's pretty true. But how do I phrase this? Like, what does that look like? Kind of what you're describing. Like, what are some examples?
If you are a man, you're a dude, and you're afraid to, get out there and get your hands dirty. For instance, Lexi will be like, oh, there's a spider, or there's a bug, or there's a mice. Right now we have mice, or a mouse. Right now we have mice. And so I am the one that sets the traps, and I'm the one that takes the little trap and throw the dead mouse in the trash can.
Right. Yeah.
And I hate it just as much as she does, but that's my role. That's my job.
Animals.
That's my job, to walk up and to squish the little spider, to slap it, or to, even though I hate it and I'm grossed out by it, to still have that mindset of facing fear and being brave, and just facing it head on is, at the end of the day, I don't want to get my hands dirty as much as the next person. Nobody enjoys sticking their hand on a dead animal and cleaning it up or whatever, but I'm not going to make her do that. I'm not going to make a lady do that. So it is my job to get down and get my hands dirty and do the dirty work and be a man. Did that kind of answer your question? I feel like it's hard to put it into words.
Well, I would agree. And it kind of reminds me of a phrase what you're describing is like, everybody's a feminist until the toilet gets clogged. And I think that's really true. And that kind of shows what I was saying with, like, we kind of know our gender roles. We just, or not even gender roles, I would say, but just kind of our roles. But then it's like, it's just not really acted on. And something while you were talking that I kind of started thinking about was, I think like a lot of guys are kind of scared to speak their mind and kind of take up the bravery that comes with that sometimes. Or even,
well, I think you hit on it right there. I think a lot of guys are no longer brave. They don't have that steel to, like you said, step up and say what needs to be said, or
even like do what needs to be done.
Yeah, or just do what needs to be done and not expect credit or anything. Just do it, and if nobody notices, that you did what was right and move on. Like, you don't need to be recognized for it.
So you made some comment about bravery. I think a lot of guys, they can't really show that bravery like you're talking about because they don't even have like a conviction to stand for. And to kind of give an example, I was talking with some friends the other night and we were talking about marriage and kind of some roles within marriage, sort of kind of like this topic we're doing now. And as the conversation was going, they kind of got to a point where they just looked at me and they're like, I haven't even thought about this before. And so like, I there's nothing really else to talk about because they had never thought about it before. And I think a lot of guys are like that because, my friend group, we do have these kind of deep conversations, but it's like, man, if you're not even having those conversations, I mean,
Well, I think you hit a really good point with conversations. I think, thinking about what you just said, I don't know the proper terminology, whether it be they have no self awareness or uh, they've never thought about it because, just going into technology cope, they spend too much time on their phones and not in their own heads. And so
yeah,
they've
that's good.
never
That's a good
thought
point.
about it because,
Yeah, you're real.
yeah,
And if you're never thinking about, it's just kind of like going down a rabbit hole of your thoughts, or like, why do I believe this? Even something as simple as like, why do I want to get married? Why do I want to
yeah,
have a family? Or why is that important? Why would God call me to do something? It could be anything that God asks us to do.
yeah.
But if you're never thinking about, okay, why, then you never really like think about why you would stand up for it and show bravery, kind of like what you were talking about.
Absolutely. And if you don't have, the friends and have those conversations with them, if you don't, because a lot of people sit down at a table and pull out their phones versus having a conversation like
That's
you
real.
and I would do. And
Yeah.
so they don't have the opportunity to have those deep conversations, to think about those weird things. Something I enjoy doing with my friends is to talk about topics, especially ones where we have different opinions, because then you can widen your knowledge by hearing someone else's opinion about something. At the end of the day, you probably have to just agree to disagree because it's silly stuff, like whether ghosts are real or not, but it's having that conversation to broaden your knowledge and to think about something that you haven't thought about before.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that really starts like when you're by yourself. Like, are you spending time just in your own head when you're alone?
Yeah.
And are you able to just like, maybe you see like an Instagram reel, or you watch a YouTube video and they offer some opinion, they make some statement that maybe you don't agree with. Like, do you ever even take time to just sit there and think to yourself, like, okay, why do I disagree with this? Okay, why is that point interesting? Like, how did that make me think about something differently? If you're just like constantly consuming like what you were saying, I mean, you're never taking any time to really think of like why you believe in something.
Well, and if you're out of practice, like if you don't do something, then it's going to be really, really hard to do the first time you do it. Like,
that's so true. Yeah.
You have to, just like working out, you can't just jump right into working out and do like this big thing. You have to work up to it. And so starting out just thinking in your head is not going to happen. Because like when I work, I normally listen to audiobooks or something. And today I just wanted to try to come up with a topic. And I couldn't, my brain was blank. There was, I had nothing. I just worked in silence for a while.
And sometimes that just happens. This definitely wouldn't be to imply like, oh yeah, you're gonna be thinking all the time. That's just something I've really, again, like I've just been thinking about, is like, man, why do I believe in the things that I believe in? Why do I disagree with this topic or this stance on something? And why do I agree on it? But then I think too, if you don't ever like rationalize and think about the things you believe in, it's a lot harder to stand up for them. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is something I've always strived for, is when I cannot answer a question with why do I believe this? Like if I go, this is what I believe, and if I can't tell you why I believe it, it's just something I've always believed, then I try to find the root and the truth of why I believe that and what the actual facts are. So that way I can argue my points confidently instead of just saying, I believe it.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. And again, like we were talking about this earlier, I think that's like a really good mentality to have. And that's kind of a mentality I feel like everybody talks about it. Everyone's like, oh, think about the things you believe in, challenge your ideas, all that stuff. But nobody actually does. No one actually thinks about, okay, here's some crazy idea. You know, I can't think of anything right now. That's really absurd.
Flat earthers.
Why? Okay, yeah, sure. Flat Earth. That's a really crazy idea. But I've listened to some flat Earth stuff. Actually, that's funny that you mentioned it. And
they're convincing.
I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. That's actually not as crazy as I thought it was gonna be. And so then you're kind of like, I don't know. It just makes you think about the things that you're like, oh yeah, I definitely believe the Earth is round. Then you hear that stuff, you're like, maybe it's a little bit different than I thought, or maybe it's like, maybe there's some other aspect of the Earth being round that I hadn't thought about that now I do because I listen to this flat Earth stuff. That makes you so much more confident in the idea that, yeah, the Earth is round. Then if you're just told in class, oh yeah, the Earth is round, and you never pay any more thought to it, and then someone says, oh, actually the Earth is flat because blah, 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 then if you never think about it, you're just like, oh, that person's crazy and they're so stupid, you know, all that stuff. But if you have kind of that open mind that people want you to have, or you at least entertain a thought, you can be like, oh, you know, maybe, or you kind of like hear them out. You know what I mean? Like you kind of get with like what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
How it changes your thought process.
It does. It gets you to question it. And then you like are kind of like, wow, they have a good point. But then you remember that you can see Russia from the United States from Alaska. And you're like, oh, that's on the East Coast and that's the West Coast. And so the Earth's definitely round. And you can see the curve. Like logically, it makes so much sense. And so it takes hearing that flat Earth, you know, spew to make you go, oh, I've never thought of it that way, and go, oh, wait, this is why I believe that it's round. Not just because I've been told, but because I physically have seen the curve, and you see the mountains curve over and appear when you drive to Colorado. Because if the Earth was flat, you would be able to see them. Instead, you slowly see the top of them, and then they slowly get bigger as the Earth curves and you come around.
Right.
And so there's simple logic and things we see every day to answer that question, but we've never thought about it.
And through thinking about it, then you're like, oh, okay, well, exactly. Now that makes a little bit more sense. And, you know, if the Earth is flat or not,
it doesn't matter. Who cares?
I could care. I could care
but
less.
It's still fun to think about.
Yes. But then, like, if you apply that logic of thinking about something to like gay marriage or abortion, or, you know, marriage in general, what it means to be a man, what you should do as a man, on some like serious topics that I care about, you apply that, you know, what's the term? Skepticism. I would maybe say that's the right term for that. If you apply that to topics that you're actually passionate about, that you would actually have to stand up for,
I think a better wording would be, if you're skeptical towards those topics that are a little more important, then you can get a wider mindset and a wider understanding of what is the right decision.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah. And then you can have that conviction, like what you were saying. And it comes definitely with that lens, like you were saying, that kind of like wide view.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's like, we like really described a really well on how to have like that conviction, which then leads to bravery, like you were saying. Ugh. Stumbling over my words.
Our our title for this was fulfilling our roles. And so I wanted to ask you, so we kind of talked about a guy's role and being a gentleman or something. What would you say a lady's role is? For the ladies listening, what would you, Jackson, consider a lady's role? Just out of curiosity, how would you answer that if somebody asked you that?
And we were talking about this earlier, definitely being ladylike, allowing.
But what does that mean?
Well, yeah. Allowing that space for a man to be a gentleman. I think you said it really well, is like not getting upset if a man gets the door for you. And it's just little things like that, you know.
Yeah. Like when a guy's getting the door for you, it's not that he's saying, here, you're incapable of opening this door. It's that he's saying, here, you are a lady and you are special, and I want to treat you right and treat you like a lady
Right.
and be a gentleman. And I want to open
Yes,
this door for
absolutely.
you and to show you a
Absolutely.
level of respect.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you just described it really well.
Yeah.
And it was like I said earlier, it's about, you shouldn't have to get the door. It's not about you can't get the door or you're incapable of doing it or you're inferior. No, it means you shouldn't have to because
It is our
you're
role
a
to be the
lady.
gentleman. It is your
Exactly. Yeah.
role to accept it and be,
And so
thank you.
a women's role is kind of more of like being open to receiving that from
Absolutely.
from a man, which is it's like
to not looking into it to be like, oh, does he like me? Is he hitting on me? Like, no, he was just being a gentleman.
Well, that
he
or
saw
even
you walk
like
into the door and he just opened it for you to be nice.
it's kind of the opposite, which, gee, go figure. It's kind of the opposite of a man. A man is like supposed to kind of be more outgoing, take that initiative, of doing things for a woman. I guess that's kind of a way to describe it. With like paying for a date or like getting the door for her, or taking care of a woman, more just in like a general sense. With like getting the door, or taking care of women. A woman's role is more like being open to it, allowing a man to do that thing and not trying to, do it for him, I guess, or like do it for yourself, which it's like, it's weird because that's so against the culture of what we have today, where it's like, you have to do everything yourself. You have to do everything for you. You have to do it for yourself. You have to do it yourself. No one can do anything for you. It's like, no, like, allow a man to get the door for you. Allow a man to serve you. It doesn't mean be entitled, but it means you're open to that service. Just like, well, I'm trying to think of an example of like a woman serving a guy, but I think in some ways it's just kind of like,
well, you could go to the more household roles and biblically to where the wife is more in charge of the household and the inner things, which depends on how you set it up. But in most households, it would be making sure the kids are taken care of while the husband's gone at work, and then making dinner, making food. That is kind of that, I forgot the word you used, responsibility and understanding. And the man is to go and to work and to make that money so that the wife can live comfortably and make those food for her husband and for her kids. And then if the kids act up and the husband comes home and she's like, look, I'm tired of them. They did this and this and this today. I am giving it off to you. Please go punish these kids because I am tired of being the bad parent. Be like, okay, that is my job now. I will put that on and I will go take care of, the discipline.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, that's kind of a way to look at it. It's kind of harder, I think, to pinpoint the roles of men and women,
because it's so
marriage.
Yes, and it is all very dependent on situation and who you are, and even in a marriage and what you decide. I mean, there are certain clear house like roles, like definitive roles, but it is really hard to pinpoint like specific stuff unless you have a specific scenario.
And I think also we're dudes, so I'm never really thinking about like what a woman's role is, because I'm kind of caught up thinking about, okay, what's my role as a young man, and what should I be encouraging my friends to do also as young men. Forgot what I was gonna say.
Well,
I totally lost my train of thought.
You're good, but we want to we don't want to just be speaking to the guys out there. We want to give the gals that are listening something to think about as well. And so we kind of we want to share our perspective on what we think the guy should be doing, but we want to hit on kind of what we've seen and what we think the gals' roles would be as well. But it is kind of hard for us to pinpoint because, like you said,
yeah, and I think it kind of came back to me.
Okay.
One thing that society really encourages that I've just noticed, and I've started to see some TikToks and people reacting to videos of how the culture is starting to shift, and a lot of people are kind of waking up to the fact that like women being a girl boss is a massive turnoff to guys, and it really takes away that role that men, whether they acknowledge it, but we as men, we all just kind of feel like we need to be the provider and we need to take up that masculine
ingrained
role
in us. It is our role.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think even though society tries to, stomp that out of us and make it to where it's like, oh, hey, you should be like 50-50. And, the women can do what the guy does with like working, and she can take care of the house. And the guy can do what the woman does where he takes care of the house and he works too. And we can both like kind of halfway do everything. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm good.
Well, it doesn't function properly. God designed us all in a specific way to have our own specific purposes and roles in this world.
Yes, yeah,
and
absolutely.
If we follow what he laid out for us, life goes by so much
it actually
smoother,
works
so
out
much easier.
really well when you
absolutely
follow God's plan.
I mean,
and
what we are saying is so controversial to what the world pushes for and what our society pushes for.
It's very different.
And so like if a lot of people out there, especially feminists, would listen to our podcast and what we just shared, they'd get so offended and with cancel culture try to cancel us. We don't care. This show is about us sharing our perspective, and we're just trying to share our perspective. If you disagree with our perspective, or if you agree with our perspective, either or, please share it with us because we want to hear your perspective as well.
Well, and if a woman, if she wants to go be a girl boss, I'm not gonna try and become president and make it illegal for you to do that, but just don't be surprised when no one wants to marry you, or you're not having a fulfilling relationship or marriage because you're acting this way. And I think that's where a lot of the problems are coming from is, and this is for guys and girls, women are trying to be, again, like the girl boss, like I've been saying, and then men are trying to like take that kind of submissive and passenger seat kind of role and not being the leaders that we should, not being the providers that we should. And then we're running into all sorts of problems.
I don't know that necessarily girl boss is what I would use, but I would say that
girl boss mentality.
I know, but women trying to be too masculine and men trying to be too feminine. Like there is a clear distinction, and it's always been that way, and we are just now trying to change it. And have we seen how our society has?
Yeah, it's not working very well.
It just crashed and burned. It's clearly not working. There's clearly a specific way it should
So what would you say is like the masculine characteristics that women are trying to do, or like the feminine characteristics men are trying to do? How would you like point that out, and what should we actually be doing instead?
Well, historically men tend to be more of shove their emotions out of the way and make decisions without putting emotion into it. And so and women tend to be the reverse of it because they are the mother bearers, that they have the children. And so they need to be in tone with their emotions to be able to comfort their children and stuff like that. And then the guys need to be the strong ones. So that way in a situation, they can protect and be strong and not let fear or emotion affect their decision making. So when you have a girl boss mentality, why I think it doesn't work it is because women tend to let emotion affect them. And so, as a boss, they're thinking too much about what everyone else around them is thinking instead of being the good leader and being the good boss they need to be. That's not answering your question.
Ooh, that's kind of that's
But
an interesting take.
it's an
I hadn't
idea that
really
came
thought about
to
it.
my mind with your question. So I didn't
Mhm.
answer your question.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know that I have specifics on what would be masculine versus feminine.
Mhm.
It is just an instinct, and we need to look into it more
Yeah, I mean,
because we've never thought about it.
well,
Well, I
I've
mean,
thought
we
about it.
have, but
I've
like
thought
not
about it.
that
Yeah.
specific.
Well, I think the feminine characteristics that the men are really taking on and is not good for being the kind of man that we should be. It would be things like being submissive. And it doesn't mean that you have to be this super like macho, alpha male, sigma leader, crazy, just like crazy stereotypical masculine guy. It doesn't mean you have to be that. It just means, like you were saying earlier, you're not being pushed around.
Mhm.
You're standing up for the right thing.
Yeah.
And when we don't have that, you're going to have weak and more feminine men. It's just going to happen. And then on the other hand, you have women who are doing masculine things where it's like pursuing a career and pushing aside family or focusing on like what you were saying, like pushing down their emotions, kind of, which is like really weird when you see like a more emotionless woman. Like it's just kind of
It's
like,
not healthy
ooh,
for
like
them.
what?
Well, and there's nothing wrong with a woman having a career per
No.
se, or wanting to have, a successful life. It's just that's not
Well,
how we were
when I say
designed to
career,
be.
when I say career, it's more like kind of how men traditionally were, where it's like, okay, I'm going to be the provider. I'm going to provide for my
Head
family.
breadwinner, yeah.
Then it's like, women are trying to do that as well. And it
Yeah.
kind of goes back to this whole 50-50
Well, and I
thing.
guess I'm wrong. I mean, I said it's not wrong, but I mean, our society says it's not wrong, but historically, biblically, the woman's the helper.
Mhm.
That's just a fact. That is a biblical fact and very controversial, and a lot of people won't like that I phrased it that way, but that
But
is
would you say like a woman couldn't help financially?
no, absolutely she could. Definitely.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, I would
I'm
agree.
not saying that at all.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
It's just the
In
man
a
should be doing
marriage,
more.
each
Is
of
like
you
that? Is
have to
that what you're kind of saying?
decide what you're going to do. Like
Mhm.
if the wife has that bigger career and that bigger job, and the dad wants, I don't know. I don't. Oh.
Shoot. Again, Jacob has not thought about it, evidently.
Well, I don't agree with it. I don't think
Yeah,
that's.
well, no. It's really interesting.
I think
because
girls are pushed to be that way because of the curse that they got from the garden, from Eve.
Yeah, that's not crazy.
I mean, they are pushed to want to be that boss, to be that man, and that is all part of Eve's curse. I mean, that is part of the struggle they have to deal with, and part of the male struggle is to be the leader, even though they don't want to be.
Yeah,
I mean, that we both have those struggles.
I think you just described it really well. As like, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things where I'm just like, I don't really care. Like, it's not important to me. But part of being a man is taking up that role and like, okay, I will make a decision. Okay, I will kind of, even though I don't really care, I'll still make an effort and care about making this decision or doing this thing instead of just sitting back and kind of just going with the wind.
Yeah. I'm going to take our own advice and be a man and speak up and say what needs to be said.
Okay.
We, as society, as a people, we want to think that God is relaxed and has said all these things, but God is very specific in what He's designed for us and what He wants for us. Mm-hmm. And one of those things is the male and female roles. And society pushes for something completely different because, sin is a thing, Satan is real, and we are supposed to be in the world and not of the world. And so as a Christian that is trying to fulfill their role as a male and female, we inherently want to not fulfill our role. Like we want to fall into sin and not follow the roles that are designed for us. But if we stand up and be a woman and be a man and fulfill our roles as God designed them to be, then life together as male and female, as partners in a marriage, you become one flesh, you become one married couple together, and you conquer the world together with your proper roles, then it all fits in so much better and so much easier. But it is so hard for us to see that because of the sin because of Satan in the world and the curse that we got from the fall in the garden.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think what it just kind of reminds me of is like what you said with like, we have a role and we don't really want to do it. It feels good to just kind of sit around and do nothing and not lead, not take up the responsibility like as men, like we're supposed to. But then like once you do it, once you get over the like uncomfortableness, once you get over the fact of like, okay, now I'm stepping up, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, you find like such a like greater fulfillment and drive to get it done. I mean, would you say like, when you're sitting around and not doing a whole lot compared to when you're like working and okay, like I'm providing for my wife and my son who's about to be born, like which do you feel like just like so much more like passion and almost like zeal doing?
Well, when my alarm goes off in the morning, do I wish I could go back to sleep? Yes. If I do get that opportunity to go back to sleep and sit around on the couch all day, do I feel like an absolute bum and an unaccomplished human being? Absolutely. When I go to work, even though I don't want to get up and go to work, and I fulfill an accomplished day and I get that paycheck to be able to feed my family, do I feel accomplished and like I'm fulfilling my roles? Absolutely. But naturally, it is a struggle. It is not an easy thing to get up and just go, yay, I get to go to work today. It is a constant battle to be like, I'm going to go provide for my family today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, it's different because even though it's like a struggle, it's like, man, I'm doing this for a purpose. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm doing the right thing.
Well, and purpose is the proper word there. You have a purpose. Without fulfilling our roles, we have no purpose. We're missing something.
Yeah. Speaking of purpose, that kind of reminds me of something. So a lot of kind of the online content for men and, becoming a man, like what you should do, a lot of the purpose stuff emphasizes a lot of like, getting money, sleeping with lots of women, becoming like this super giga Chad, kind of like what I was talking about earlier.
Chad, being a Chad.
Where would you say that kind of strays away from what the Bible teaches and what kind of God tells us to do?
Where do I think it strays away? Everything about it.
Really? Like there's nothing worthwhile in there, you would say?
First of all, sleeping with loads of women is just tearing your soul apart.
Yeah, real. That's not real man behavior, in my opinion.
Rush into things too easily in today's society because it's pushed to sleep with many women and to get your count up. But that first time, you always remember your first time with somebody, you know what I mean? And actually, no, hopefully you don't.
But I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Anyways, and so you always want to go back to that. And if it is with that person that you get to spend the rest of your life with, it is so much pure and so much more whole. But if you have that first time and then you have a first time with another girl and a first time with another girl and a first time with another girl, you lose a part of yourself every time. And versus having a pure soul to begin. I use soul loosely just because I don't know how else to explain what I'm saying.
No, but I know it's like a part of yourself that you're given to the other person.
You're leaving behind. Yeah.
Yes, and I think obviously like that's the clearest example of how this mentality of just this secular like, hey, this is what a man should do, this is a man's purpose. It's like, no, as a man, part of our purpose is getting a family and finding one woman to I mean the term settle down, yeah, that's like a popular term, but it's not really like settling down. It's starting your life with them. It's starting like this adventure with them. It's not like the end. It's the beginning of your life.
Absolutely.
But also the idea of like for me that I've always just kind of not agreed with. I don't think working and getting lots of money and trying to provide for your family, that's not a bad thing, but it's like that's not the only reason you're on this earth.
Well, yeah.
Like,
well, and that's the other thing.
To just get money and like just accumulate worldly riches.
And you asked me what I disagree with, and I said everything. Money is one of them. If your goal to get money is to get money and to keep your own money, that you miss the whole point of money. Money's a gift. Money is something that we need in order to feed our family, to occasionally have fun, go on a little trip or whatever. But if your focus is on getting money to have money, then you're focusing on material things. Versus if your goal is to get money so you can have a good time with your family or to feed your family, take care of your family, be able to help other people, then you're not so worried if you lose a little bit of money because you're not putting so much emphasis on the value of money itself. You're putting more value in your family, and money is a benefit. And so you don't need a lot of it to do those things. And a lot of people try to avoid like obviously I don't want to pay, as all the taxes that I have to pay as well. And so, when I buy something for my business and get to take it off as a write-off, it's exciting. When I have a house, I get to write that off. I am going to have a kid before the end of the year. I get to write that off. I'm not going to have to pay that much taxes this year. Hallelujah. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Now, was that my purpose in doing all of that? Absolutely not. That is just a benefit of it. If your goal is focused on keeping as much of your money as possible, you're focusing on the wrong thing in life and you're missing the joy in others or in the proper things.
Just pursuing money just to pursue it, I think, is just kind of, it's not a bad thing to want to,
but it's lonely.
For example, these guys are like,
you're missing. There's a hole.
Business. Yeah. Like scale up your business. That's good. Or try to perform better than you did. Like that's all good. Those are totally understandable things, but it's like, that's not it. That is just a tiny little thing compared to the real meaning of life and the real role that you should be taking up, which is like having a family and pursuing God.
And when it comes to taxes, at the end of the day, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, is a biblical verse. And it is, at the end of the day, God gave us that money.
But if they're printing all of the money, like, do you really need to give it to them?
Well, I mean, physical money isn't money anymore. It's all numbers online. It's all made up.
It's fake. It's fake. Yeah, Jacob, I think you've kind of like wrapped this up a little bit nicely.
Yeah, I think we both have.
We're talking about the rules.
Yeah.
And just in some ways, like, there's more to life than money and like pursuing a career per se, but also it's like you have to remember the manly role that you're supposed to take, or if you're a woman, that womanly role that you're supposed to have, and how, like you said earlier, when we do the thing that God made us to do, things turn out really well. Things work when we follow God's plan and God's instruction. Absolutely. But once we start deviating, like I think our popular culture has, then just like weird stuff happens that you just wouldn't think would, and you just find yourself. There's some study and it was talking about women who are in relationships where both of them work or the woman works more than the man, both of them, they saw the women were less happy than in the household where like the woman stays home or she doesn't work as much. And it's just like, who would have guessed? Everybody is surprised except for the Christians who are like, yeah, duh, like that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are sitting here going, well, I don't know what my role is, pray about it. Ask God to show you what your role is and to help you see the truth and open your mind to be able to accept the truth.
Yes.
I think that's really important.
People forget too, like a lot of the time when God tells us to do something, normally you like don't want to do it. I mean, there's no story in the Bible where God tells someone to do something and they're like, oh yes, God, like I can't wait to go do that. I've always wanted to do that. The majority of the time, if not always, it's kind of like there's a little bit of friction.
Even Jesus said, Lord, if there is another way, please let it happen. But at the end of the day, Lord, let your will be done. I will do what you need me to do.
And that's the winning mentality right there. That's how you get it done.
Yeah, for sure. You know, for not having a topic when we started our pre-show, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think this is good stuff and important to talk about. So,
if you guys are enjoying the show, no, I don't have
perfect.
Any further comments.
Right, yeah.
If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to leave a follow on the podcast stuff. And if you're on YouTube, leave a comment, tell us what you like about the show, and make sure to drop us a sub.
Yeah. Make sure you share your perspective with us because we want to hear other perspectives.
We want to see that perspective.
Absolutely. You can contact us via email if you're old like us and still use email. I hate email, but I still use it. You can contact us.
I'm not old yet. What?
Okay, fine. No way. Okay. Well,
I didn't know using email was an old thing.
Using email? Email though? Dude, email is like the oldest form of technology, like communication.
What the hell? Dude, that'd be like saying, send us a letter. Send us a telegram.
Yeah. Fax it. Anyways, send us an email at thezoomerperspectiveshow@gmail.com. Share your perspective with us. If you're on the podcasting apps, there's a button that allows you to text us. Click that and send it to us. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. Simple. They're not direct messages, but yeah.
All right.
It kind of puts it in a big box for us to see it all. They can't actually it's not our actual phone number. It's just
yeah. You
Anyways.
Don't get my real phone number.
No.
Sorry.
Nope.
Not sorry.
You can't call us with your hate. But you can email it to us. All right, let's wrap this up. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you for making it this far, and we hope you've been enjoying them so far. Peace out.
Yes. Goodbye.
Girl Scout.